we see maybe a little difference in this vlog? Hello, my name is Paul and I'm filming this video today in Ultra HD, 50 frames per second, 50 pictures per second, and when and why to use 50 pictures per second, such a fast speed that we are going to figure out now why to use and when more than cinema 24-25 frames per second. So this is how 4K 50p looks. It looks a little bit strange. The motion blur is not exactly the same as in 25p, but it is the actually 180 degrees shutter speed rule, but 50p. When to use 50 frames per second? That's the question for today. So how you can see, there's definitely a purpose for filming everything in 50 or even 60 frames per second. We are in Germany here, we are in the Europe PAL region. That's why I film in 50 frames per second. It's because of the English or American side, you film in the NTSC form, and in the European form you film in PAL, in a PAL system. It's because of the circuit 50 Hz and everything. But why to film everything in more pictures per second? Is more pictures per second better or is it worse? Does it make things better in general? No, I don't think so, but 50 frames per second works extremely good when you want to have a film with no human interaction, when you just film B-roll and when your film is completely only B-roll. For instance, a nice cinematic video from a nice country, a nice island, when you then have shots from the sea, from the water or from anything else. But if you then film a human interaction or have a little story, your movie becomes a little bit too realistic. The last cinema movie which tried to achieve it was the Gemini Man. It was actually shot in 120 frames per second, which was too much for the human eye. That movie was a complete disaster. The Hobbit tried it with 48 frames per second, which was also not very good, but for YouTube videos is it sometimes okay. You can film yourself in 50p, but it takes more time to practice 50p, because in my opinion is it harder to get the complete right shot, because when you see everything with the faster motion, all flaws become also more visible, because the shutter speed is different and everything. That's not so easy to film in 50 frames per second. So we are inside now because it's not so nice weather outside and I have not the most cinematic surroundings here in my Berlin hometown. As you can see, 50 frames per second looks also okay. It looks pretty, not cinematic, cinematic is the wrong word. Cinematic is something for cinema. And 50 frames per second is more realistic. When you have a nice environment and want to choose to film a whole vacation in 50 frames per second, you have to stick to that rule. The only downside is that you have so much storage space for it. 50 frames per second takes, I think, almost double the amount of storage from your hard drive than 25 frames per second. It's also harder to edit and harder to process for your computer. So 50 frames per second makes everything a little bit harder. It's not so easy. It looks cool if you master it. I find it quite hard to film everything in 50 frames per second, because most things are filmed in 25 frames per second or 24 when you live in a NTSC world. For me is it always 25 pictures per second, because it looks like a movie and I want to make movies. So thank you for this little demonstration. I hope you liked this video. See you in the next one.